Greetings, Los Angeles Real fans from the car. Today's guest on the show is Nic Gabriel. He's the founder of the Jiu-Jitsu Brotherhood, Psychonaut, and World Traveler, and we had a great conversation with him. As always, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Twitter feed, the Instagram, and the Facebook. And until I see you again, live the dream. Welcome to Los Angeles Real. My name is Thomas Faustine Husking.
Yes, I'm Christian Monzon still.
And today's guest is Nic Gabriel. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Nic has recently come to Los Angeles. Most people that are now in touch with our show know that it is directly a result of what you did on London Real, you and Brian Rose. And
what a treat.
Dude, it's really exciting to have you here.
I mean, we've seen your split screen on iTunes and all that stuff. And now you're going to be a part of our split screen.
That's cool.
Pretty
yeah,
dope.
Dude. So let's talk about why you came to Los Angeles, first of all.
Wow, that's a tough one. Things ended between Brian and I and London Real. My involvement with London Real came to an end, and I just it made me take a long hard look at my life and where it was going and my priorities and what I had to do. And I realized there was no real reason for the next year or two for me to be attached to a single location.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So I just said to myself, I'm going to spend a year or two traveling and teaching jiu-jitsu and meeting interesting people, having experiences and adventures. And I love the US. So that was the third place on my trip, and I spent some time on the East Coast, and then I came through to what is probably my favorite place in the world, which is California. I really love this place, and as Thomas and I were discussing in the car, like I really love Los Angeles, even though it's got a bad rep for being a superficial place where everyone's trying to be an actor and all the rest. It's still pretty cool.
Peace, man. Yeah, definitely. You know, as you're sitting here talking and giving us, the spiel about your roundabout ways of ending up in La La Land, man, I'm thinking about manifestation, man, and how this guy introduced me to your show, and in the flesh. I can't get over it.
Weird, huh?
I can't get over it.
It's
weird,
been 8
dude.
months since I showed him, the Dorian Yates episode. Are you recording this incredible 2-year journey in any way? Do you like journal, or do you take pictures, or?
I don't journal, and I don't take pictures because I find that with Facebook, most of the journey is documented anyway. Right. Especially when I go and teach jiu-jitsu somewhere, people will take photos, and I'm kind of not into taking pictures anymore because I find if I'm traveling with that subroutine running in my mind that I have to get a picture of everything. It kind of takes me out of the moment. So I made a choice. If a picture happens because someone pulls out a camera, or if there's a moment that's just too good to pass up, I'll pull out my iPhone and take a shot. But I'm not avidly pursuing taking photos or documenting anything. So not really.
Do you write as a rule anyway? I mean, do you keep track of things with the written word?
Yeah, in a roundabout way. I think every year I sit down and write an email to all my friends and family. It's a kind of a recap of the year and what I've done and what I've seen and what I've learned, and that kind of serves as the journal, I guess.
Is that
condensed journal?
Your family's in South Africa?
Yeah, my family's in South Africa. Have you guys been?
To Cape Town.
Yeah, that's where I'm from.
Oh, cool, man.
Because you are a model, right?
Correct.
Yeah, a lot of modeling out there.
Yeah, a lot of catalog stuff.
That's cool.
I don't remember the trip.
Why is that? It's not because you were fucked out of your brain on drugs, right?
There's a lot of weed smoking.
Is there good weed in Cape Town? I guess there is.
It's very cheap.
It's probably good everything.
Is there good weed in Cape Town? No, not really.
It's not good, but there's a lot.
Oh, okay.
You guys, I think you call it bush weed. The crappy weed?
Dirt weed,
that's it.
Yeah. Swag.
Yeah.
But and when I used to travel for work, it was pretty much everything was catered to my needs.
Yeah.
Driver, hotel.
That's pretty cool.
So I didn't know anything.
Dude, I got to talk to you because I didn't know anything about you until Thomas filled me in on the way over in the car. And it's my understanding you were the face of Dolce & Gabbana for a while.
Yes.
Okay, so...
Yeah. This is my last year.
Now, I have this thing, and that is when I die, I want to be reincarnated as a male model, right? Because, I mean, really, how great has that life been?
It's been, I mean, in hindsight, I understand that this dream that is my career is coveted by, thousands and thousands and thousands of people.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all stepping stones. I've still never reached the goals that I wanted for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But with every job, every experience, every new client, every bond forged, I look back and the wake of my life is this, these events that are all tied together and called a career. And it's like, damn, man, first of all, I'm fucking old.
Nice.
But the reality is, like, I look at it as like a huge blessing because it acted as a platform to the next thing.
I just know I have a very close friend he's also a male model, and he's quite accomplished. And I mean, I consider myself not a bad looking guy. I've never really thought, I need to talk away my face when I'm interacting with women. You heard that expression? Some guys,
that's great.
They have to talk away their face for 30 minutes. But, he and I will go out to a bar, and, you'll just feel like the Elephant Man because this dude is just super good looking. And I always thought, I wonder what that life must be like. And then I have a female friend who's incredibly attractive, and I realized that she hasn't really got one foot grounded in reality because life has been so easy for her.
Right.
And I mean, I don't think that you've had it. I mean, I'm sure you still had to work pretty hard, and you don't seem like that kind of person.
Oh, man, I mean, here's the reality is it's not as glamorous as it looks. People starve. People do compromise themselves. They do things that normally they wouldn't do, all for this false sense of security because you don't have a regular day job. Yeah, you make a lot of money, but it's not everybody. I mean, there's the 1% rule in the modeling game as well. I mean, not everybody gets to that echelon. I mean, I was very fortunate. I mean, that company, D&G, made my life easier. They helped me live better. They helped my family live better. And that's not something that happens for everybody. I mean, the most coveted trophy, if you will, the holy grail in the modeling world is the fragrance campaign because they goes forever. I mean, I took one picture. I'm not bragging, but I'm just, being honest. Took one picture. It took an hour, and I got paid for 11 years.
Can you imagine, dude?
I mean, no, I can't.
Yeah. I mean, it's still, I don't even look like that guy anymore.
You're way better looking than he used to be, right?
well, I mean, it's, I'm not hoarding physical beauty anymore.
I heard something, or I read something a while back, which was, we always wonder why these superstars and models and these people that are in the public eye and who are looked up to and adored and given adulation by millions of people, why a lot of them turn to drugs and alcohol and become depressed and go off the rails. And in this book, which I can't remember the title of, this guy was saying how when millions of people love you for what you aren't really, which is your physical appearance or your career or something that isn't intrinsically actually you,
right,
you start to become starved of real love. And you start thinking, oh, well, they all love this fake me. What about the real me? No one loves the real me. And that can cause, these spirals and drinking binges. And that always stuck with me. And I guess it comes back to what you said. It's not always what it appears to be,
Oh, no doubt, man. No doubt. I was fortunate. I had an awakening, and it actually forced me to stop drinking and smoking.
Okay.
I used to smoke a lot of weed.
Really? Yeah, me
Sorry,
too.
Mom.
And you drank a lot too, right?
I mean, straight up. It's called Alcoholics Anonymous, but I'll let the cat out the bag. I was abusing alcohol and weed, and I don't know. I never really looked at it like because I was sad or because I was being shown love. It was so accessible.
Fair enough.
And I had a lot of time on my hands.
Weed has a very interesting way of rationalizing its use to you.
Oh yeah.
That's the thing I noticed about it because I got to a point where I only started smoking for the first time in my mid-20s, and then I was like, okay, I got to catch up on everything I missed out on.
Same here, man.
Yeah.
Same here.
You know, and there was a point where I thought I was in control of it. I thought I was its master, but I realized that it had actually mastered me, and it was dictating what I was doing.
Oh, yeah.
And when I quit weed, I went through really, really bad withdrawal, man. Like proper withdrawal, dude.
Wow.
Like, and I was, you know, like I had the sweats and the shivers and stuff, waking up at 4:00 in the morning with my sheets drenched, and I went through bad withdrawal. So
never heard of that.
yeah,
me neither. When was that? How long ago was that?
Maybe like 4.5 years ago, I guess. So I kind of ever since then I've been kind of wary with weed. You know, if I'm on a beach in Thailand, someone pulls out a joint, you know, I'll have a couple of drags, but it's definitely not a big part of my life anymore, and I'm really relieved about that. So I hear where you're coming from,
Yeah, man.
Christian.
It's
That's interesting.
I mean, you said some poignant. It dictates a lot of your reality and what you do. For example, I would constantly use it as a crutch for creativity. You know, if I wanted to paint, smoke a J, take a hit, smoke a bowl, whatever, and the leash was off, and it didn't matter what happened on the canvas because I had that freedom, you know. And now I don't paint as much because I don't smoke as much. I don't smoke at all.
I get it.
But yeah, it definitely, the associations made through the use and you know what you would do. Like, oh, the best thing was playing basketball high.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Basketball?
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I loved working out high, so I know what you mean.
Yeah.
If I could
Listen to
get
music,
some kind of pull which gave me the same physical relaxation without any of the mental stuff, I'd take that in a heartbeat, seriously, because I find if I have a couple of drags of a joint, I instantly become 20 to 30% more flexible. Like just my whole body.
Really?
Yeah, it's strange, bro. It's strange. So I think there is some power in that plant, and I think it is a plant teacher that has its uses, but if you're using it, you got to keep asking the question, who's running the show, right?
What
Oh,
did
yeah,
you
man,
what
that's
did you what did you like about exercising and being high? Particularly, I mean, I get the flexibility thing, but what else? I mean, did it just allow you to focus differently, feel your muscles working better?
So I felt that I'm guessing the term is the psychosomatic connection, the connection between the body and the mind, or my kinesthetic awareness was heightened. I could just really be in my body a lot more. You know, my lungs, I could take deeper breaths.
Wow.
Because it's a bronchodilator, you know, it just expands the lungs, and I just really enjoyed that aspect of it. You know, I could just contract my muscles a little bit harder, and it was just man, I feel like getting stoned.
It's the association, man.
Yeah.
It's gotcha.
Yeah.
Are you talking about lifting weights or practicing jiu-jitsu or anything?
Jiu-Jitsu, and I stopped really lifting weights much a while back. Body weight exercises, calisthenics, you know, squats and handstands and things like that. I used to love doing. And, you know, the only thing I'm really a little bit upset about is the last year has been my introduction to yoga, and I've dived into yoga in a big way. And a lot of the time I wish I could just blaze up and do yoga, because I know it would improve that practice in the short term, you know, give me access to extra flexibility and extra body awareness. But man, my mind is, through regular meditation, I'm just in such a good state. I find that smoking or drinking or taking drugs kind of like throws me off that, and then it takes a while to get back to an equilibrium. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. I mean, I've had even deeper experiences, creative experiences, just by consciously breathing, so that the correlation between yoga and whatnot. I mean, it's kind of the curse of being human. We always want the, you know, bigger, stronger, faster.
Yeah.
That better experience.
Why do you think that is?
How do you heighten it? Man, we could spend the whole episode talking about that. Something about wanting to reach perfection. You know, wanting to strive towards something that we're not. I mean, maybe I'm just talking about myself.
Enough is a tough concept. It's like, how do you ever get to that point where
reaching a level of contentment?
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't. We've talked about this a lot, Christian and I. Like, how do you define success? It's different for everyone, but it seems like, especially out here, let's say you get the starring role or you become the series regular, then what? It's not like you're gonna be like, well, my job here is done. Now I'm done being an actor. It's going to be like, well, that was good, but what else can I do? Or what painting, I have this next idea. You just keep going. And it's like a blessing and a curse, isn't it?
There's the Buddhist expression, which I used to mention on London Reel every now and then. It's contentment is the one true wealth. And that's the truth.
How do you get there? Do you know? Because I would love to know.
So it's my perspective at this point that our natural state is contentment, and that through the course of the average human life and childhood especially, the average Westerner builds so much psychic tension and physical tension through indoctrination by society and his parents and the media that stands between him and contentment. And what it ultimately comes down to is an unraveling of all those psychic tensions and all those physical tensions until you get to the point where, Michelangelo, he was asked about how do you carve these amazing sculptures, and he says, I just take a look at the rock and then I carve away everything that isn't the sculpture, and I think that's what it is. It's not something you have to attain or condition yourself for. It's something you have to uncondition yourself.
It's already there.
Yeah, I'd like to believe that's
great.
the case.
That's really good.
You just made me think of a scene in The Matrix where
he'll quote The Matrix.
It's one of my favorites.
It's the best. Where Agent Smith is talking to Morpheus about how he categorizes humans.
Morpheus.
Okay.
And how any organism on the planet will reach a level of equilibrium with its environment. It doesn't kill more than it has to. It doesn't deplete its resources more. I mean, it just uses what it needs. It reaches a level of contentment with its environment. You know what I'm saying? And humans don't do that. It has something to do with the ego.
I completely believe that, and I agree with you.
You just kind of sparked that, and I've got The Matrix emblazed in my brain, man. I mean, the concept. Oh man.
Well, let's talk about this yoga foray then, because that's really, really exciting. That probably hasn't. Maybe you could say, has there been anything that's grabbed you like yoga in the last decade or so, where you're like, man, I need to get really good at this? And
man, fuck, I could talk about yoga for. We could literally finish the podcast just talking on yoga. I'm so pleased to talk about it. So you guys will have to stop me if I get a bit involved.
No, that's great.
First of all, who do you study with, or do you do it by yourself?
Man, it's quite difficult for me to have any one specific person to study with as I'm traveling a lot.
Yeah.
But whenever I'm in town, and if there's a studio with a specific style of yoga that I'm interested in, if they offer that class, I'll go to the class. But otherwise, I have my yoga mat and I'll roll it out at home. And I know the sequence well enough now that I can do it on my own, even though I'm not doing it very well. But
can I interrupt you real quick? Can you talk about what the turning point was? Like, why did you start? Because obviously you're at such a high level with jiu-jitsu, and there must be a lot of similarities. Yeah,
I just realized I'd been working out my whole life. I literally, since I was 14 or 15, I'd gone through the whole. I'm starting to see it as a progression, and that I had to go through lower levels to get to a higher level. The higher level being yoga, but I started with a dumbbell for I think it was my 12th birthday. Actually, my dad got me a dumbbell. I wanted a dumbbell because I'd been reading up on bodybuilding, and I was like, I want to get yoked, And so I was there dumbbell curling, and then when I was about 15, I started going to the gym and doing squats and bench press and all the rest. Like you do, you want to get better at your sports. And then I read a book called Combat Conditioning a few years later when I was heavily into my jiu-jitsu, and the premise behind that was that body weight conditioning was the most superior form of exercise. And so I kind of left weights behind, and I started just working with my body, push-ups, calisthenics, that kind of stuff. And I I just realized a couple of years ago, I just realized, I'm strong as hell, but I'm stiff, and I don't feel open. I could feel my body was contracting more and more than anything. It wasn't, and my posture was starting to get shitty, and I was like, man, I'm an athlete, I work out all the time, I exercise, like, why am I starting to look like Quasimodo, And
it's a bit strong.
No, it was, especially from jiu-jitsu, because everything you do, you're like holding on to the guy, so your body starts to, or mine at least, started to develop a very rounded sort of. And I mean, I've got this video out there called Spirit of Jiu-Jitsu, and I said the same thing in that video, which was one of my my jiu-jitsu idols, Rickson Gracie. There's some scenes of him doing yoga as part of his training, and I saw that, and my instinct told me, like, this is a much more sophisticated technology than going and curling a bar or doing a push-up or doing a squat, and I started to study it a little bit, went to a couple of classes, and I was always blown away by how good it was. And then I realized, man, if I want to get the most out of this, I have to become more devoted. I have to dedicate myself to 5 days a week at least.
Wow.
And it's such a powerful thing. So that's the best phrase I can use, is yoga is, when it comes to exercise, it is the most sophisticated technology that I think human beings have available.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a strong statement.
Yeah. It's I mean, the thing that blows me away, I read a book on stretching many years ago, and this guy was saying how there is a theory in Vedic scriptures that yoga, each one of those postures, which are called asanas or asanas, is a reflection of a different aspect of your psyche. So, and your development in that aspect. So perhaps one of them could be empathy, like doing warrior one pose this is just an example, but it could be related to how empathetically developed you are. And if you think of the loop between the body and the mind, if you change one, another one has to change. Well, I personally believe that. And yoga is like a rapid fire way to do that. It's like a very powerful technology to affect your mental, physical, and spiritual development. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Well said.
Yeah. So I literally just did a sequence in my buddy's apartment before you picked me up, Thomas. And I'm not the most flexible guy, so it's fucking hard for me, bro. Like, it's much easier for me to go and do bench press or squats or sprints. So that's easy to me, like, in comparison. And every time I have to psych myself up, but at the end of every workout, it's like, oh man, it just.
You want more.
Yeah, bro, it's so good.
I know that feeling.
You know what I'm have you done yoga before?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Which style do you do?
I did Bikram yoga for 30 days in a row, and I loathed getting in my car and going to the studio.
Huh?
Oh my God. But it was that feeling when I walk out of the room and I breathe in fresh oxygen, and the sun is shining and the trees look greener, and oh man, I'm getting goosebumps.
Yeah,
just thinking about it. Dude.
That's the
awesome.
same.
Yeah. If you just look at it as objectively as possible, you can see that when I say it's more sophisticated, if you look at the average strength training workout, right, and I know strength training is progressing very quickly, and it's a lot better than it was even 5 years ago, but even 5 years ago, people were saying it's all about functional movements, right? And you look at those functional movements, they were like deadlifts or kettlebell swings or pull-ups or squats. Even those movements are incredibly linear, right? It's like you move in one plane, right? And if you look at yoga, there's a lot of twisting and bending and arching, and it's just so much more complex. And you'll do one movement and you'll always follow it by a movement that movement warmed you up for. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and it's just it's 10,000 years old.
That's
Yoga is
in line with what we're
10,000
talking
fucking years
about.
old. It's like, sure, people have been fucking around with weights for a couple of 100 years, but yoga is 10,000 fucking years old.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I would say to anyone out there listening, if you want to improve your life quickly, dedicate yourself. Don't just fuck around and do a class or two. Go and do a month of yoga, a proper month, 4 to 5 days a week. And if you don't like it, I'll give you your money back.
Do you think there's any particular, are you practicing Ashtanga?
Yeah, I do Ashtanga. And the reason being is it's one of the grandfather styles of yoga. I think a lot of yoga has been, especially with the proliferation of it in the West. It's been watered down a little bit, and
bit.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. And Ashtanga is a very powerful set system that has been proven to work, and yeah, that's the one I'm working with. And I've tried a few others, but this one seems to suit me the best.
So you talked about a system. Can you walk us through some of the? I know you can't do the postures, obviously, but is it like Bikram has 27 poses?
Yeah.
It takes about 2 hours.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
So Ashtanga has a primary, a secondary, and a third series, and if I'm not mistaken, there is a mythical fourth series that no one really knows what it is. The papers were destroyed and had it on it or something. I don't know. And it always starts with my yoga teacher, who's a good friend of mine. She said that the way to describe it is that it's like a sandwich. There's a piece of bread, which is the opening series, and then a piece of bread at the bottom, which is the closing series, and then there's the middle part, right? And the middle part, you always do the beginning and you always do the end, and the middle part, it's determined by how far you can go in the system. So the middle part is your standing sun salutations, which if you do them, you can see how it's the perfect warm-up. You know, it takes your body through pretty much every single plane and movement, you know, and you do that for 5 sequences of that, and then you do your middle part, and then you do the closing part. And it's literally the perfect system of exercise. It does stretching, it does strength training, it does balance, it does coordination, it works your lungs, it works all your intercostal muscles, it gives you nice twists that help massage your internal organs. I sound like a zealot, but I'm just so in love with this thing, you know.
Yeah, man, be passionate.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Sort of the push I need, though. I've been talking about getting really into it. I just haven't made.
Yeah, man, you got yoga written all over you, bro.
Yeah.
Was it in the white hairs in my beard? Is that where it says it? No, I just think it's really cool, and I have a couple of close friends that are very much into it, and you can see the way it changes people. And the few classes that I've been, I fucked around. I did it a couple times, and I hated every minute of it. I was like this is doing the same thing as a 300-pound squat. Are you kidding me? And just sort of looking down disdainfully at everyone. The way that I felt when I left is undeniable. It's exactly like what you're describing. And I was like, I know there's some really incredible stuff in there that I will eventually come back to, because the lifting of the weights, as much as I love it, and I probably will always do it, it wears your body down. You know, it does.
There's a question that I feel is really important whenever you're exercising. You need to ask this question all the time, which is, why am I doing this? For every movement or every exercise you do. So if you're doing a squat, why am I doing this?
Right.
If you're doing a bench press, why am I doing this? If you're doing a sun salutation, why am I doing this? And in yoga, admittedly, I'm someone who's been working with exercise systems for a while, and I'm a reasonably good natural athlete, and I have good body awareness, so I can answer that question myself. I know why. When I do a specific posture, I'm like, oh, okay, this is to strengthen the adductor, or this is to open up my thoracic, or, you know what I mean? And that's the thing I enjoy about yoga. I can answer that question every time I'm doing it. Whereas, kettlebell swing, sure, maybe it's working your glute, but maybe it's, you know what I mean? It's kind of like...
It's to make this little vein right here stick out a little bit more, homie. That's what it's for.
That's a good one. You guys, you work out as well, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Cool. And you
It's
do
just
similar kind of stuff to Thomas?
No, as you can tell, he's in better shape than me. But it's something that by choice I decided. I was up way above 200 pounds, and it was too bulky.
Okay.
It just doesn't fit my personality anymore. And I'm of the school right now for longevity. As I evolve, I realize what's important, and the energy pathways of my body, having those clear, something that yoga does very well.
That's cool.
That's more important to me. I still will lift weights, but if I put more than 2 big wheels on a bench press, it's too much.
Fair enough. I understand.
Yeah. I don't push up a lot of weight at all.
Don't get me wrong. I still think there's a place for it, and such a cliched statement, but the fact that I used to, as a teenager and in my early 20s, and I used to go and get under the squat rack and do those squats that made you feel like you want to puke and everything. I think a big part of who I am today. You know, but I think that was just one of the steps.
Yeah.
You know, and I think yoga is the next step. I mean,
Oh,
I
for
like
sure.
that.
Yeah,
It's nice.
so,
It's a nice evolution.
Yeah, it is. It's the next necessary step for you to ensure that you don't end up, you know, hurting something that you can't fix
It's like
later
quasi
on,
fucking
dude.
moto.
yeah,
homie.
Quasimodo, dude.
You
So-
can't get rid of a hump.
It's 2 years. 2 years basically that you're taking to travel around and teach.
Man, I've given myself a year, and if it's gone well, then maybe I'll do it again, right? Or maybe I'll do another circuit of the world.
I
you
just
know?
think that's so cool. I was looking at the map on Jiu-Jitsu Brotherhood website, and did I say that right?
Yeah, jiu-jitsubrotherhood.com.
Nick's the founder of that, and there's a map of everywhere that you're going with the little red dot.
Mm-hmm.
That's just planned through the rest of 2014?
Pretty much. That'll probably be planned through to the end of 2014. So
Just reminded me of Paulo Coelho, The Alchemist.
Yeah, great book.
This journey that you're on.
Have you already been to all those places?
no, yeah, not on this trip, but I've been to a lot of them before. I haven't been to Japan and the Far East.
Oh, that's gonna be awesome,
I'm
dude.
so excited. Have you been?
No, I lived in Korea for a while though,
Okay.
and then
What was
went-
that like?
It was amazing.
Yeah.
I happen to love.
I lived in Korea.
Did
town.
you really? Koreatown? Vietnam, Thailand,
Southeast Asia,
Cambodia.
right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love it. And
Thailand's amazing,
it's
right?
the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about, you plan on going to China at all?
Man, honestly,
Because we know
It's-
somebody in China.
you do. Huh?
Yeah, we got
Honestly,
you hooked
guys,
up.
I know this is just a reflection of my own stereotypes and preconceptions, but I don't really have any interest to go to China just based on the human rights violations and what they're doing to the environment and the fact that they're selling their souls pretty much for the chase of the buck, you know.
Right.
And I know that's not every Chinese person. That's a ridiculous blanket statement to make, but there's just something about the energy of the place from what I've seen like through the media and from what I've heard that just makes me not really want to go there.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Ryan Pyle would have a field day with him though.
Yeah.
That was part of what he tried to. He thinks that's really problematic because what we get about China is like the worst possible shallow shit that's
Interesting.
going on in China.
Okay.
And part of what this guy did was to circumnavigate it on a motorcycle with his brother. It's 1.5 billion people in
Okay.
China,
Yeah.
and
So it's, I suppose making any sort of generalization
Yeah.
is just retarded. Yeah.
Not necessarily.
but
I
it's
mean,
we all have those same notions
No.
because of the media that we all consume.
What I got from it was something instinctively, you're attracted or not attracted, and that's, it's your own choice. It's
Fair
not.
enough.
It's not anything that.
It's to
you know.
be, noted for sure. I always follow that gut instinct now. It took a long time to go.
Mm.
"Nah, I don't really want to do that.
I mean, the reality is when you're convicted about something and you follow that. I mean, whatever path
You might
it
change
leads
your
you,
mind.
man.
Yeah.
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 So
For sure. Man.
So Japan's on there, and Australia I saw is on there.
Yeah.
Have you been to Russia?
I haven't, man. To be honest, it's a place I don't really have a desire to go to either.
Another.
Yeah.
mark it
Yeah.
off the list.
But Japan, dude, I have this dream, right? Actually, I want to arrive in Tokyo because I've heard one of the things a close friend of mine said to me. He went to Japan, and when he got back, I sat him down. I said, Simon, tell me, what was that like? And he said, Nick, it was like I had landed in a spaceship on a distant planet. And when I heard that, I was, dude,
I gotta go.
Yeah. And I wanted to get to Tokyo. I prefer to travel on my own. I wanted to arrive there on my own, go to my hotel or my hostel or whatever, put my bags down, walk into the streets of Tokyo and take a huge hit of a fat joint
Yeah, man.
and then just walk around and take it all in. I thought that would just be so cool. But whether or not that's going to happen, I'm not sure. I think it's quite hard to get weed into Japan, right?
Yeah, that's the rumor.
Yeah.
If it's meant to be, you'll find it.
Yeah, for
It'll
sure.
find you.
So you'll continue just doing clinics at local Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu
Yeah,
schools?
yeah. I'm fortunate. I'm quite established in Jiu-Jitsu, so there's usually a demand in most major cities for me to teach a seminar.
How great is that?
It's
are you,
cool.
Are you represented? Do you have somebody who handles all of your bookings and whatnot
Not really. Just do it myself, man.
off
you know?
of your website?
Yeah, off the website. And Jiu-Jitsu is such a cool thing because, I was just in San Diego teaching at a place I'd never been to before. 10th Planet Vista, big shout out to those guys. And, man, I made a bunch of new friends.
How cool is
Yeah,
that?
bro, so cool. So cool. And I know in a couple of years, this friendship or this network of people that I've been touched by and influenced by is just going to get bigger and bigger, and it's a great joy and pleasure for me. You know,
you'll be able to travel always and sort of be able to give people something.
I hope so.
Which is great.
Any aspirations of opening up your own school, like in a set location?
Yeah, I'd have to get someone to run it for me because I'm. You guys have heard of Rumi, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he says, the specific context about which he's speaking is marriage, and he was saying how marriage is akin to if you're in a house on a hot summer's day, right, and you close all the windows and doors, you want to go out the house, right? That's the first thing you want to do is go out into the fresh air, and that's like marriage. Is when you put a contract around something, you start wanting to get out, you know. Whereas if you leave the windows and doors open and there's a cool breeze blowing through the house, you're not in a hurry to get out. And for me, it's the same with jiu-jitsu. It's like if I had a school and I was there 5 days a week, twice a day, you know, that would be my house with all the windows and doors closed, and I'd probably want to get out of there. Whereas if I roll up to some new school with a new environment and new people, and you know, that's a pleasure for me. And I don't want to destroy something I enjoy by turning it into a 9-to-5 job, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, total sense, man, and very, very powerful concept. Spiritually advanced. I mean, to have that in your heart, to know that you don't want to taint it by calling it a business. It's admirable.
Well,
I'm kind of thrown here. It's you know, you don't hear this every day.
Yeah.
Nick.
Well, to be fair, I mean, I sell stuff on my Jiu-Jitsu Brotherhood website, so I can't pretend to be this dude who's just like, I mean, money's important, but it's more from it's actually more a selfish reason. It's just I know I'd get bored, and I've you know, maybe when I'm 50 and this wanderlust has been worked out of my system, you know.
That's not gonna happen. Come on, dude.
Maybe it's not, but you know, Osho, who I guess you guys always remember, I referred to him on a lot of the previous podcasts I worked on, and that guy, what people don't understand about Osho is that he was like a Jesus or a Buddha. We have film footage of a god sitting and answering questions from everyday people.
And driving in a different Rolls Royce every day.
But I think he did that just to fuck with people. But
I think so too.
my point about that, he wrote a book called Courage.
Dude, I was just about to talk about courage.
Oh, really, huh?
Yeah.
Amazing book, right? When he speaks about always moving into the new, and he says, sometimes you will go wrong. You know, sometimes if you move into the new, things won't work out. But ultimately, that's the secret of a rewarding life, is always moving in towards the new. And
awesome.
For me, yeah, it changed the way I looked at things a lot.
That's a good segue, because I was going to ask you about your own jiu-jitsu game at this point. You're reaching a stage where, does it really matter how many notches you get on your black belt at this point? I mean, I know that from what I understand of the art, you can improve in it infinitely, right? You're constantly evolving, but for 10 years, you put your head down and work techniques and different opponents. Now, can you just sort of sit back and go, I might improve a little bit? Like, what's your metric for getting better at this stage?
What a question, dude. That is an amazing question. For me, jiu-jitsu and my ego are very closely entwined. And as I'm trying to unravel my ego, I'm having to relook at my jiu-jitsu and reevaluate a lot, because as any jiu-jitsu guy will tell you, it's hell on the body. It's really fucking tough on the body. Yeah. You know, I mean, you're trying to crank on some dude's neck or arm in a way that makes him want to break, and he has to stop you, right? And he's trying to do the same to you, you know. And man, as I just said to you earlier, I'm going to be 34 soon, and if I go and do jiu-jitsu, and everyone, like, if I go into a new school and like the guys want my scalp, you know, because, you know, I'm the visiting black belt, or I'm have a good name in the art and stuff, and fuck, dude, some of them can beat me, you know, and sometimes I go and train with these guys for an hour or two, and I'm fucked for 2 days. I can't walk properly, you know, and
right.
And so now I'm having to question, like, what is it about? Why do I still do jiu-jitsu? And for me, it ultimately comes down to, at the core of the art, if you strip away everything, it comes down to efficiency, right? Efficiency of movement, and that's what I'm always looking for. It can't just be about trying to beat people anymore, because my days in that game are over. You know, if I was 24, maybe I could still be like, fuck, I want to be the best and sacrifice dudes. And it can't be about that for me anymore, but I can still keep shaving away all those little edges. You know, I can, when I do, some guys got me in a bad position and I do my hip escape, like I bridge up and move my hip, I can still shave off that little millimeter of too much effort or create the perfect angle. Or does that make sense?
It does. I was just thinking about, I heard you mention that sometimes when you roll with Hajar, he was your coach, right? He was the one that gave you your black belt. Mm-hmm. You described it as training with a god. You know? And I'm like, man, that must be so fucked up to go, wow, I'm at a really high level in my game and this guy still fucking just works me like I'm a child. Dude. So what it is about his game is it just innate ability? Is he just naturally that good?
No, I think he worked very hard to become as talented as he is. I think also he was gifted with a very powerful physique. I mean, he's a big guy, he's 6'5", you know, wide shoulders, big, strong guy. And when you've been doing it from the age of 6 and you have those natural attributes,
can you imagine?
What? Yeah, it's going to be very difficult to kind of match that, you know. And
how old is he now?
31. Yeah, 31, I think.
Is he competing still?
Yeah, Roger actually just lost an MMA fight in the UFC recently to a guy called Tim Kennedy, and it's pretty tough because UFC didn't renew his contract after that, and that was his debut in the UFC, which is, I'm sure it's really tough on him. Because
they gave him one fight, really?
Yeah, I personally think it's because they'll eventually renew his contract, but it's a carryover from an old contract, and they want to get him for a lower price. So I think that's why they did it.
Politics.
Yeah, and money, you know.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, he's such a cool guy, Roger. I sometimes wonder if he's really cut out for MMA because he's just so relaxed and chilled out and zen. I don't know if that's for him, but time will tell.
So you guys know the same techniques though, right? I mean, everybody is schooled in the same techniques.
It's kind of like that. There's a repertoire of techniques that most people know. There's a lot of overlap, but everyone has their own favorites or their own different things. So I wouldn't say I know the same techniques. I'd say he knows different ones to me, and I probably know different ones to him. You know?
Because you all have like what works best for you biomechanically.
Yeah, and also there's a bunch of techniques that everyone knows because those are just, you have to know them. You know, like certain escapes and stuff. So you guys should do jiu-jitsu. You get a lot out of it.
I've tried, man, and just to be frank, I just wasn't into getting all sweated on and dude's armpit in my face and big ass. I mean, there was I'll tell you a quick story.
Really?
I just didn't like it, man. I didn't like it.
Fair enough.
I tried it. A buddy of mine named Caleb Lane, he was a model, still probably models, and he was 13 years deep in jiu-jitsu.
No way.
He studied with the Gracies, and there was like this quiet storm in him always, and I always admired that, and I knew it was because he was jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
He was a jiu-jitsu guy, and I just felt it, man. I always felt like he was there was this calmness. I would never fuck with him. And he's just a little smaller guy than me, you know. And I started talking to him about it, and he's like, yeah, come on. There's a Krav Maga down the street. Krav Maga, yeah, that guy. Down the street, literally, right here from my house. And he's like, yeah, I'll meet you there. And we tried it, and I left.
I really enjoyed it. I just, you know, it's humbling in the way that surfing was. Like the first time I got beat on over and over and again by a little guy, and I was like, this is retarded. You see how fucking big my guns are? That is whack. And I liked it, but it's just, it feels
intense, man.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like you, no matter how good you are as an athlete, how naturally strong, anybody can dominate you, which is really cool.
Dude, I was in Australia a couple of years back, and I've never been regular surfing, and this buddy took me out and put me on this little board and said, yeah, just follow me. And man, I couldn't even fucking paddle past the break, bro.
You couldn't get out.
Yeah,
I know,
I
it's
was like,
terrible.
Jesus, surfing's hard, bro.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I'm done with this. So I know
Yeah.
exactly how you guys feel.
That's
And
what I did.
you know, and I'm not putting down your sport. I'm sure, you know, you're very well. It's appropriate for who you are.
Yeah.
But when a big ass 300-pound blubbery dude was like trying to teach me to breathe by like laying on my face, he's like, just sit there.
Yeah.
Just don't struggle.
You know when I had to really question a Christian was when I started yoga, and I'd walk into a class and it would be like 16 chicks in leotards and me. And then that night I'd go teach a jiu-jitsu class and I'd have some fucking dude sweat dripping in my eye, and I'd be like, man, what am I doing here? You know? So I kind of understand exactly what you mean.
It wasn't attractive. I didn't fancy that lifestyle.
Yeah.
Although it was something that I wanted to keep in my pocket. You know, JKD was something that I also started delving into, and it incorporates a lot of jiu-jitsu, as you know.
He's Bruce Lee is an amazing man, a very progressive individual, a very progressive soul, and I mean, you know, Jeet Kune Do is his system, you know, and he has you know that expression, absorb what is useful, reject what is useless, and you can live your whole life based on that.
Yeah.
You know, you can literally, there's a few tenets that you could use just to run your whole life off of, and that's one of them.
Yeah, for sure.
His philosophy, man. I mean, I think about this. I tweeted something about this earlier. How his philosophy, man, for the amount of time that he was in this place, what the gems that he would have dropped on us, and I mean, his philosophy alone took shape and is what it is, without any help on his part ever again. You know,
Just
and
an
people,
influential dude.
yeah, I don't. You know, my own theory is that eventually he's gonna be looked up as a god. You know, like
Interesting. You think that it'd be taken that far?
it could?
I mean, in many ways, he's already revered that way.
Yeah.
You know, you think about it. I wanted to ask you about fear, as it pertains to something that I don't know if Christian goes through it at this point, but
I'm never scared of anything.
Exactly, you're not afraid of anything. We, you know, as performers, there's just, I felt real anxious yesterday. I had a great deal of anxiety, and I thought that I should be able to conquer it at this point in my life.
Was it
because I've
related
been
to
able-
something specific?
No, and that's what was so weird. Because usually I can have a meditation or go train or maybe take a nap and wake up and feel good. But there's still a great deal of anxiety that is sort of tied in. It's married to performance for me. And I'm wondering if you still deal with that. Like, when's the last time you competed?
I had a super fight in Germany about 2 months ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where
How'd
did
it go?
Draw. It was a draw. If the truth be told, I think the guy probably would have beat me if it was a points match. Because he did dominate me for most of the fight. In the end, I almost got him in a submission, but most of the fight he was dominating me. But coming back to fear, I mean, fuck. It's at the end of the day, we're I believe spirit chained to flesh, right? Spirit chained to monkey flesh, or to whatever you.
A bag of bones.
Yeah. I mean, I personally believe that we have primate DNA, or share common ancestry with primates, or whatever it is. We have this animal flesh that forms a large part of us, and I think fear is part and parcel with being an animal. I mean, you're going to have fear, right? Because that's a biological function that's designed to keep an organism alive on the physical plane, or at least a mammal alive on the physical plane. So I don't think that there's ever any getting away from it, but I think you can learn to understand it to a large degree and lessen its impact, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I guess the reason why I was asking is Christian and I have, we are, one of our mentors is our acting coach, and he talks about fear and using it as you just can't let it become a negative experience, because everybody sort of deals with it. And I wasn't so much trying to stomp it out. I was just struck by how anxious and negative I was as a result, when usually I'm like, oh, okay, I recognize this feeling. I can deal with it.
Wait, what were you doing?
I woke up and I started going about my business, and I was just like, man, I just have this creeping anxiety. Like, I don't know where that's coming from. And generally I don't have that. So I was like, this is something I'm going to ask Nic about. And like, how do you deal with it in a sport sense, or, from a jiu-jitsu perspective?
So there's a couple of little, I would like to call them tricks that I learned through either reading or mentors that handed them down to me, which is, the first one is obviously the control of the breath, right? Which it's scientifically proven the rate of your breathing and your mental state is linked. It is what it is.
Right.
So physiologically, when you're afraid, your breath becomes shallower and more rapid. And so again, it comes back to what we spoke about earlier, which is the feedback loop between the mind and the body. If you change one, another has to change. So if you slow your breathing down and deepen your breathing, then it will change your mental state. So that's something I use all the time, is control of the breath. And again, that's another tenet. Just with that, you could probably reach enlightenment, which is learning to watch your breath throughout your life. Every single breath. Just watch the breath and watch the flow of the breath through the body. And the second thing I use is, you spoke about it already, which is observing ego. It's being able to disassociate yourself from the fear and just look at it almost in third person. And I mean, a lot of times Osho speaks about it. He says, he has a book called it's called Emotions, Freedom from Jealousy, Anger, and Hatred, or something like that.
Doubt, I think.
Is it doubt? Could be. And he says very often when you observe something, it dissolves or it dissipates. And that I think is a very powerful little tool, is just to observe it, and not, and again, to observe it without judgments.
Right, which
just
is very difficult.
Acknowledging it.
Just acknowledge it, And actually beyond acknowledging it, even just looking at it. Like looking at your fear and saying, what is this? What is this fear? Just not, this is good or bad. Just saying, what is this? And following it down. Like, where is it? Where is it sitting in my body? What is it? What are the thoughts it's bringing up? Why? Just observing it. And that's helped me a lot. Does that answer your question?
It does, and I think it's a great segue for the ayahuasca line of questioning, just because as I understand it, and I heard you talk about it, Nic did this very popular piece on YouTube now called Ayahuasca, My Journey into the Heart of Darkness, or something like this.
My Heart of Darkness.
My Heart of Darkness, where you describe for like 2 hours your ayahuasca experience. Some of the power must come from experiencing these tremendous emotional states, and is fear one of them?
Yeah. So the ego ultimately fears its own dissolution. And an interesting story that I think you guys might appreciate is, in Jiu-Jitsu, you get, one of the objectives is to take your opponent, or the main objective is to take your opponent to the point of submission, where he can't get out of a choke or a strangle or an arm lock, and he taps, right? And when we're training, most of the time you tap in time and your opponent releases, but sometimes you can get strangled and you can lose consciousness, right? And I remember I've only ever been choked out once, and it was when I was training with a white belt. I was a purple belt at the time, and I was teaching a class, and I was training with a white belt, and I had one hand in my belt because I was trying to be cool, and I was and he did this little choke on me, and I remember thinking to myself, I need to reach out of my belt and tap, and then I passed out. And when I passed out, I had this intense terror nightmare, like it kind of almost like a condensation of all my fears ever, like fears I had a girlfriend at the time, fears about losing my girlfriend, fears about my family, fears about just every single fear I'd ever had just attacked me in that one little second. And when I came to, I was actually screaming. The instructor on the mat said, like, really? You were screaming when you woke up. You were screaming.
Wow.
And one of my spiritual teachers, I asked him. I said to him, I told him about the story, and he said, well, that was the ego's fear of dissolution. It's because when you were choked out, your ego was so afraid of its own death, it's like manifested this panic and this fear.
Wow.
And ayahuasca, I thought you'd find it interesting. Ayahuasca is, if it's done correctly, it will take you to the point where it will fucking shatter your ego. And that is fucking terrifying, because all these walls you've built in your mind, all these stories you tell yourself to keep keep you alive in this world and to keep your ego going just suddenly aren't there anymore. So you're awash in this ocean of just not knowing, of just infinity and just
real life.
Yeah, reality, I guess.
What compelled you to walk down this path, man? I mean, it doesn't sound very tempting, to put yourself through that type of
It's a good question. So, the Matrix, right? When Agent Smith, Morpheus says to Neo, you felt it your whole life, like a splinter in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I watched that movie, I was like, fuck. I've felt that my whole life. Something's not right. It's like almost like an itch I couldn't scratch. I was like, what is it? Why are you never satisfied? Why is nothing ever enough? Why are you, you're never at peace. You're never relaxed. There was this itch, and I watched an interview on ayahuasca, and that was it. It was like, you got to do this. You got that. And it wouldn't leave me alone. It was, you got to take ayahuasca. You got to do it. You got to go to the jungle. You got to take I remember one night I couldn't sleep, man. I was saying, go to the jungle, go to the jungle.
Man.
Yeah. And
that's powerful.
Powerful.
Yeah. So
to be so in touch with your subconscious and knowing that it's delivering this message, and for you to follow it, wow.
So you've done that the one time.
No, well, Brian and I
in
actually,
the jungle the one time.
Yeah. So we drank 4 times in the jungle.
Okay.
And actually, I'm going back in November again.
To do it?
Yeah, to do it again. And you know what?
How many ceremonies will you
We'll
have
do
this
5 this time.
Okay.
And I'm fucking terrified. But I just know it's something I have to do. And I just know, it's at the risk of sounding like such a hippie, tree hugger. And, man, I really do think humanity is sick, man.
I can't wait till we are evolved enough so that you don't ever have to qualify statements like that. You know what I'm saying? Because I do it too. I'm like, oh man, at the risk of blah. You're saying truthful things, and that's why you have to qualify it with something like that.
But look around, bro. Everyone can see it. Just walk down the street. People aren't happy.
Right.
Sure, there are certain little pockets of people be out partying, and there'll be like a little bubble of happiness or joy somewhere, but go and sit on a train or sit on a bus, and where's the joy, bro? Where's the joy at this amazing game, this amazing experience that we're all doing? Do you know what I mean? There's a few people who I consider awake, and they're happy, and they're vibrating at a high level, and they're joyful, but where is it for the rest of humanity? And I don't see it.
Do you think it has anything to do with the evolution of technology and how it's integrated into our everyday human experience? I mean, being this posture, you see more and more and more of. They actually say that our thumbs are going to get bigger.
Is that true?
Yeah, our eyes are going to get bigger as we evolve, and our thumbs are going to get bigger.
Interesting.
Because we're constantly doing this.
So I think what'll happen is manual input with technology will be superseded before our thumbs ever try to evolve.
Agreed.
But that's an interesting theory.
But yeah, I mean, there's this sense of isolation, when it comes to.
I hear you, Christian, and I do. The part of me that's so judgmental of modern society does feel that way, but also, man, I couldn't do this crazy round the world trip and connect with all these people without Facebook and email.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be in touch with you guys. There's no way.
That's
right. No way. I'd have to write you a letter that would take 6 weeks to reach you by sea, 100 years ago. So it's it's a double-edged sword, and I think everything has its balance point. With Facebook, I'm actually at the point where it's not serving me anymore, dude. I'm fucking addicted to that. The first thing I do, I wake up and check my Facebook.
Oh man,
isn't
it awful?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in the same place, and I hate that about myself.
Yeah.
I'm like, I gotta stop doing this. I'm owned by it.
The thing is, it's a tool, and it does serve you. It does help you in your business, and it keeps you in connection with people that you would never be connected with.
So true.
And as much as bad of a rap as it gets, it definitely, it's one of the biggest tools for social networking that we have. Sadly, it's not used properly. I'll tell you, because well, and everybody listening, I sent out an invitation. You know this.
Oh, yeah.
Sent out an invitation to a play I'm doing.
Okay.
And if you're still here by the end of September, I'd love for you to come.
Yeah.
Nick will put maybe.
At least you'll put maybe.
Yeah, right.
You know, like half of them. I don't even give you a number. Half of them didn't even click on the invite, and it's like, you know, what does it take? What does it take?
You gotta pull teeth to get clicks out of people.
Yeah, and there's so much in
Content.
that feed coming through. Yeah, you have to stand out in some way. You know, Brian and I, when we were working on London Real, we used to go and sit down for 2 to 4 hours a week and just sit and post the episodes on people's Facebook walls. And at that time, I had like 2,000 Facebook friends, right? In inverted commas, for those of you who are listening. It's like, I know they're not all my real friends, but man, try and do that like 2,000 times. It's fucking boring.
Yeah,
bro.
it's terrible.
And how many of those people actually click through? Maybe 1%.
Oh.
You know, it's like, so I understand where you're coming from.
We've noticed that, for sure.
Don't take it as a reflection on yourself, man.
Oh, definitely not. I just feel like the tool that it is, the sharpness that it can cut with, isn't reaching its full potential.
Yeah.
I just don't feel like. I think it's such a kind of topical thing. Like, oh yeah, I'll put a status up and wait for somebody to click a button. You know what I'm saying? But they don't, like, it's such untapped. It's the tip of the iceberg. You know, I think that it could do so much and it does do so much for a lot of people.
Well, you just have to put it at the tail end of Shark Cat on a vacuum.
Right.
Because then I'll definitely click on it. I'll like anything with
Did you watch that? Did you watch?
I saw it from somebody else. Have you
It's
seen it too?
amazing.
It's the best.
There was something about I couldn't look away. It's so good.
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Dude, it's this little cat dressed in we don't need to talk about it. We don't need to give him any more. It's a cat dressed in a shark suit sitting on a little vacuum cleaner cruising around. This woman is like shucking corn in the back. It's like a Fellini movie, dude. It's amazing.
I watched it 20 times. I couldn't get enough of it.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back just for a second. You said, I always got the feeling that why couldn't I be at peace? Something just wasn't right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you do the ceremonies. When you came back, were you like, that's better?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's been almost maybe 9 months, and admittedly the glow has worn off a little bit, but I have, you know, the word enlightenment or enlightened, if you look at it, if you break it down, enlightened, to be made lighter, it feels like a load of psychological garbage and psychological tension has just been released from me, and I am so much happier. I'm so much happier since doing that.
That's great.
If I can get the order of magnitude increase in joy and happiness in my life from this next trip as I got from this first one, I mean, I'll probably just be sitting in a corner smiling, drooling for the rest of my life. You know, I'm so much happier since then. And so definitely, man. And
Any fear of getting stuck in one of these mental states?
Yeah, I'm fucking terrified of it, bro. Because in the last trip, I was in a mental loop. I was lost in my fucking mind, bro. For what felt like eternity, I was lost, and it was horrible, dude. But man, I mean, you got to take the good with the bad, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's no great reward without a great risk.
Yeah. I mean, I worry about my family. Like, what if my mom gets a call from some authorities in Peru saying your son is in a fucking institution? I'm worried about that, but I think if you prepare properly and you treat the medicine with the respect that it deserves, and you follow the diet and you meditate and your body's clean and you go with an attitude of profound respect, I really do believe that the spirit of ayahuasca, that elemental consciousness, which is a real thing, I do believe that she does look after you, and she only gives you as much as you can handle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's kind of in line with what I was talking about earlier. I feel like anything that human beings have been doing for thousands of years, whether it's yoga or taking ayahuasca, they know what the fuck they're doing. So the only it's the problem's with us. We're scared of doing it. That being said, I think it's terrifying, but I don't think it's anything that. What's most compelling about it for me is that, from what I understand, you can't come back from it unchanged, and that is just so cool. Just that idea is like, all right, let's do this.
Yeah.
How akin, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but have you ever done mushrooms?
I've done them once, buddy. Yeah.
And peyote?
Yeah, we did similar San Pedro when I was out in the jungle last time.
Is that mescaline?
Mescaline, yeah.
Okay.
I think they're of a similar family. They're pretty close.
How akin to those experiences would the ayahuasca experience be?
It's not the same.
Not even close?
Well, look, I was taking very, very, very strong ayahuasca this last time. So it maybe a psilocybin trip, maybe a mild psilocybin trip would be equivalent to a mild ayahuasca trip. But a strong one, very different, dude. Very, very different.
Do you get sick? Does everyone pretty much get sick?
You know, at the risk of sounding arrogant, my body's quite clean. You know, I live a pretty clean lifestyle, and I personally believe that you get sick if you've abused your body with like drugs and stuff, and you have a very poor diet and
heavy toxins.
Yeah, heavy toxins. Yeah. I think ayahuasca, the first thing it does is it takes the human organism, and it goes, okay, I want to teach it these lessons, but it's not resonating at a high enough frequency. So first I have to get it to purge all this negative stuff out of it, you know? So I only kind of puked one time. But I know a friend of mine who was with me on this last trip, if you guys want to hear a cool story.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to hear a cool story.
All right.
So one of my best friends, no, he's not my best friend. He's my brother, Jan. I'm just going to tell it. I'm going to give you guys all the details because I know you'll appreciate it. You know, he's a jiu-jitsu guy, and he came with me on this trip to the jungle. And sometimes we'll be sitting on the mat at the academy in London. We'll be sitting on opposite ends. It won't be sparring time for us. Other people will be sparring. We'll be waiting our turn, and Jan and I will just catch eyes, and we'll just shake our heads and burst out laughing because what we fucking went through in that jungle, you know, it's just no one, unless you've done that, you cannot fucking understand, you know. And the first night he did it, I was sitting next to him, and at some points I could hear what he was going through, but he told me the story the next day. And he said he had an issue with his father, right? Like a serious issue with his father and his family growing up. And he said there was he could see this big black bug on his chest and stomach, right? Like on his spirit. And it had its little hooks in him, and it was hooked into him.
It's like a giant
like
tick.
a tick.
Yeah, like a tick. And he said, like, he was trying to puke, to throw it up, to get rid of it. He knew puking was the way, the physical way to get rid of this spiritual illness. But every time he tried to puke, it would hold, its little hooks would go in tighter to him.
Dude, that's gnarly.
And he said all these little elemental creatures, like jungle creatures, like little spirits and stuff, were all around him, cheering him on, going, come on, you can do it, you can do it. And eventually he puked, and they all cheered for him. But I heard him puke because he was sitting next to me. And it's not just like, ugh, it's this soul-wrenching fucking from the bowels of hell, right?
Yeah.
And he puked this thing up, bro. And I mean, I don't know, that story's pretty fucking amazing to me.
I can't believe that.
Man, and that story is, every person who does strong ayahuasca will tell you a similar story. Maybe not with a bug and little creatures, but I mean, some people go to different dimensions and meet creatures in different dimensions. Some people are shown distant planets. Some people are shown. One person showed me how he was shown someone he knew in his life. He was shown actually every person he had ever met in his life, and how spider webs of connection, spiritual connection, were linking all of them and everyone else on the planet.
Whoa.
I mean, I could tell you 100 different stories like this about ayahuasca. It's such a powerful thing. You guys have to do it.
I can't wait,
you
dude. I can't wait.
November.
You going?
Oh, shit.
I don't know, man.
There's one more place, bro.
After watching your interview, and it was very tempting, and I thought about it, and I'm a seeker like that.
Yeah.
I want to delve into as much truth as the universe will give me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's for me.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't know. Definitely on the fence, but I have a history of mental illness in my family.
Really? Okay.
And it's not something that
Fair enough.
I want to toy with.
Yeah, I understand.
because I've had some very close to enlightening experiences that basically institutionalized me.
Could you tell me a little bit more about that? Are you comfortable speaking about it?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I wanted to go there, but let's keep it real.
Keep it real.
It got. I'll keep the story short because it's a long story.
Yeah.
Thomas has heard it.
Mm-hmm.
It's very intricate and extremely detailed, and I don't want to waste your time. This is your interview, but I got to a point where I felt like I was in control of everything. Literally, everything.
This was on a trip. You'd taken something.
I was on and off of weed, heavy weed, about an ounce a week.
Jesus. Okay.
And on and off, and I literally fried the chemistry in my brain.
Yeah.
And my serotonin levels were peaking and depleted, and I literally drove myself crazy.
Yeah, dude, I've been there on weed. I know exactly what you're talking about.
However, the experience that I had, this 3-day experience where at first I didn't know what was going on, I could have a thought, Nick, and it would happen.
Come on.
Dude.
Give me an example.
Like, I would think of somebody in my mind and they would call me. I would hear a song in my mind, turn on the radio, it's playing. Then I was like, wait a minute, come on. This is not, this is real talk, man.
Yeah.
I said, all right, if I'm doing this, and I'm playing a game at this point.
Yeah.
If I'm doing this, let me take it to the next level. I started thinking about people, and I landed on one, and I'm not joking, they were at my door. Now, this is what I think it's akin to. I was so in tune with my environment and the energies that I was surrounded with, I could pick up those vibrations. So the person that I landed on, that I was thinking of, their energy was within the vicinity of my energy.
Interesting.
And I could pick up on that. It was really, really strange and it sounds crazy as fuck, but it really happened. And I have the bracelet from the institution I landed in, because my mom suffers from mental disease, and my family was very scared that I was having this experience. And now I see it as a form of enlightenment, because had I had control, had I not scared people, had I not been so overt about letting people know that, these are the thoughts that I'm having. And if I had no fear and if I had no doubt, then I could have breathed into the experience, and who knows what I would have been messaged with,
Osho says that the only difference between a madman and a mystic is a madman has fallen beneath mind and a mystic has gone beyond mind. So perhaps that experience is the point where you went beyond mind, because you don't seem mad.
Well,
not now.
Well, this is the kicker, that where people started questioning my sanity was my thoughts were coming so fast that I was talking so fast. You couldn't decipher what I was saying.
You were speaking in tongues almost?
That's what it sounded like.
Right.
My thoughts were so fast that my physical couldn't deliver them. So I would be having this conversation, and normally I'm a very slow talker. Very slow talker, and I'm very mindful and thoughtful when I say what I have to say. And dude, the thoughts were like boom,
crazy,
boom,
huh?
boom, boom, and it sounded crazy.
Yeah.
It sounded crazy, and I remember everything to a T.
Interesting.
To a T. But I was I literally was in another dimension. Yeah. Like, it didn't feel like my reality. It was insane.
How did they bring you back down? How long did you have to stay in the...
It was like the Wizard of Oz, man. It was like the Wizard of Oz. I refused any and all drugs. I did not want to...
It was a smart move.
I did not want to take any drugs. And I ended up strapped to... Damn, this is real.
Jesus.
I ended up strapped to a bed, and I was attached to the vitals, the thing that keeps your heart rate and your pressure and all that stuff. And I was just tired, man. I was just tired, and I hadn't slept in 3 days, and I really wanted to go to sleep. Yeah. And I promise you, nothing was laced, man.
Yeah, yeah.
I promise you. But I couldn't sleep. I had so much energy. I was tired, and I said, okay, that's it. And then I heard a voice, and the voice said to me, we are the one. And I looked at the thing, tears in my, like, just river of tears, and I pull the heart monitor off, and I see myself flatline, and I just black out. At that moment, when I saw the flat line, I just passed out. And when I woke up, everybody was around me. My mom, my uncle, my sister, my aunt, and I was having normal thoughts. I was talking normal.
Interesting.
It was literally like the Wizard of Oz. Like,
Jesus.
you woke up and, there's no place like home, and it just, my body just was...
Everything was back to normal when you woke
Everything
up?
was completely back to normal after I got that message.
Yeah, you went beyond mind. I would guess this would be, and I'm not a psychiatrist, but the same thing happened to Eckhart Tolle, the guy who wrote The Power of Now.
Mm-hmm.
Is his mind was so overstimulated and so overactive, and your mind's a tool at the end of the day. The tool he had lost control of the tool, and he fell into a deep sleep, a voice said to him, resist nothing, and he fell into a deep sleep, and he woke up, and he was enlightened because he had gone beyond the mind, right? Like, maybe a similar thing happened to you.
Wow.
I mean, not to put myself on a pedestal, but I like to look at it like that.
Okay.
And you said it perfectly. If you look at the root of enlightenment is to be made lighter.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally saw, I look back on that experience as a form of enlightenment, because I realized so much about who I am and my reality and my place in the universe. I didn't go from Siddhartha to the Buddha, but I did evolve. I did transform into who I am today.
Good for you, bro.
So yeah,
That's great.
Definitely.
You had one of those yet? You got to top the story now.
Yeah, I got a really good story. No, I actually wanted to ask you. This is one of the... Remember I said I had a question written on my hand?
You sweated it off.
It's gone. No, it was after having an ayahuasca experience, 4 of them that you had, right? 4 ceremonies.
Yeah, I've had 6 in total. So
6 in total. I'm sorry, yeah. What is it like having intimate relationships with women post ayahuasca? Is it more difficult? Is it the same? Does it give... You basically had experiences that only a tiny fraction of the people on the planet have gone through. So I just feel like coming back from that might be a little bit difficult to relate. Not because, your body naturally works. I'm not asking for intimate details, but it just seems like getting close to people after seeing the world in a completely different way, or reality in a completely different way, might be somewhat affected.
Strange that you asked that. There's a girl who I love very much, who I'd been seeing I got really fucked up over a girl once, got really hurt, and I'd put up a lot of barriers and stuff. And there was a girl I've been seeing for the last year or two, and I'd keep it very compartmentalized. I'd only see her once a week, and I was like, that's it, I don't want to get attached. And, I was like,
right.
The classic. And I found when I came out of that jungle, when I'd literally just come out the next day, I couldn't do that anymore. I couldn't pretend to be the tough guy. I couldn't play the game with her anymore. And I remember sending her this long text message, which I still fucking cringe when I think about it, but it was like, I really, you mean a lot to me, and I just have to be straight up honest with you. And I just found that my way of relating to people, to everyone, I was so much more aware of my own bullshit, and it was a lot easier to circumvent that when I was interacting with someone. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, actually, strangely enough, that's one of the toughest things about this trip is I was getting really close with her, and then I had to leave, and I always ask myself, one day will it be like, fuck, you could have had a great relationship with that chick, but at the end of the day, for me, I got to move towards the new. I made that decision. So,
what does that mean for long-term monogamous relationships, though?
Okay, dude, you really want to get into this? Okay, so I don't think it's for me, monogamy. I think it can be done. I think there are examples of people who've lived very happy, long, fruitful lives.
Are your parents still together?
Nah, not a chance. I think if you looked at an ideal world, a perfect world where the human race has superseded things like jealousy and fear and the illusion of separation, I think the world would be one big orgy. You know, like there would be no concept of my girlfriend or my husband or my wife, that we would supersede that. And if you look at tribal cultures, I mean, there's something I find fascinating is when in certain tribes, when boys and girls reached puberty, they'd all be put in a big hut or dorm type thing together one night, and they'd like a group orgy basically, and they would choose which partner suited them the best, you know, and then they would stick with that one. And
what a great way of doing things.
Yeah. I mean, I think that might be a little bit extreme, especially with regards to I don't know, sexually transmitted diseases, and I also think that if you're brought up with a Western mindset, I don't know if our psyches are capable of dealing with that, because we have these jealousy circuits and things like that. But I don't know that monogamy is ideally suited to this spirit flesh matrix that I'm operating at this point. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And maybe I'll change my mind one day. You know, maybe I'll be, because I used to think that was the way forwards, and I don't now. But maybe in 10 years I'll change my mind.
Yeah, I mean, you seem totally open to it. I mean, if you happen to run into a female version of you, or somebody who empowers you, somebody who makes you better, or who you want to be better for, and you want to walk hand in hand with this person, you know, maybe she shares the same kind of ideals as you, and they're, you know, she could say, you know, I'm not really into monogamy either. Yeah. Let's roll.
You know, some people talk about having sex on acid or mushrooms. I was wondering if ayahuasca...
Is that the kind of question?
No.
Is that what you were asking?
No. I'm saying, can people have sex on ayahuasca, or is it too... Do you know... Have you heard of anybody fucking when they're...
Dude, I haven't heard of that. I know you're supposed to abstain for a few days from masturbation and sexual intimacy.
I can't do it then. Yeah. I'm not going to go.
I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah, I'm not going.
But have I heard of people having sex on... No.
Right? Because it's too powerful, right? Like,
I have heard of people giving birth on ayahuasca.
What?
Yeah. One of my shamans, she said when she does give birth, that she'll be on ayahuasca. But having sex, Jesus, dude, that would... Wow.
Scariest intimacy of all time.
I don't know if you could get it up, bro. Because, I mean, like, you're seeing big black bugs attached to yourself and little creatures, right? I don't know if you'd be able to...
There's a big python in my pants.
That was a good one.
So you called it a medicine.
Yeah, it is a medicine.
It's a medicine.
Yeah.
And
it's
that
not a drug.
It was kind of linked. It was kind of linked to my question about mushrooms, because mushrooms is actually a poison, and the reaction the body has is...
Well, that's what we call it in the West, is a poison. But I mean, the native people...
No, it quite literally is killing you.
Yeah, it is. It is like, it has the effect of a poison, if I'm not mistaken.
It kills you?
Mushrooms, yes.
Oh, because they're toxic.
The way the body gets rid of the toxins to save your life is the high you get.
Oh wow! I'd never.
Yeah, I'm like, have you heard of that?
No, that's interesting though.
No, it's true. So I was intrigued when you called it a medicine, because I was wondering if it had same effect.
Does that mean ayahuasca is poison as well?
I definitely would not label it as a poison, because it heals your body as well. It heals you. And remember, when you drink ayahuasca, it's usually a concoction of several different plants. Ayahuasca just being one specific vine. Right. But I personally couldn't look at it as a poison. I asked one of the shaman's apprentices. I said to him, you know, is there a toxic dose of ayahuasca? And he said, I've had like a liter of it before.
What?
And he said I got pretty fucked up, but I didn't die.
Is there any? Do you know, in the history of, well, as much as your knowledge extends, has there ever been a death?
There have been a couple of deaths. I think one of them was negligence on the part of a certain shaman and the place, the retreat that this kid was at. And there have been a couple of suicides, I think, that have apparently been linked to it. But
that makes sense.
To that, I would say two things. I would say, one, with regard to that accidental death of that kid, it could just be that if it's your time to go, it's your time to go, bro.
Absolutely.
You know, that could be it. And also ayahuasca, I'm a big believer in that the medicine doesn't do the work for you. It's just someone mentioned, he talks of it as a psychic permission slip. And when you take ayahuasca, it's giving you a permission slip to access these certain parts of your psyche in certain dimensions. And that's what ayahuasca is doing. You have to do the work. You know, it can show you the door. You must walk through it.
Right.
You know, and I don't think if you're a shitty person and you're you have evil intent, I don't think ayahuasca is going to turn you into a saint. I think it might actually
amplify.
Yeah, it might amplify. You know, because it's a neutral tool. You know, but from a physical standpoint, I really did feel that medicine healed my body a lot. I felt more vital and and if you look at most of the shaman, they're in amazing shape. They look decades younger than they are, you know, and it's like, yeah.
That's far out, man.
Kind of fountain of youth.
How long is the experience, each one?
So, Thomas, I'd say that variable is directly linked to the strength and the dosage of the ayahuasca that you've taken, but I think it's probably about 3 to 4 hours, and like any other drug experience, it has a peak and then a tail off. So
is it its own timeline too? Like it feels like it could have been a week or 5 minutes, or it's just not like in normal time?
That depends on the trip that you give it,
Right.
or the journey that you're taking on. I think it could be, you could feel like it's real chronological accuracy, or it could feel like one stage stuck in eternity in a mental loop. So I guess, yeah, I can't really answer that question.
For those people who are trying to get an idea of what to expect, when in most of these ceremonies you are outside in nature, correct?
Again, I don't think
there's
that's
no
the case.
most, is there?
I
There's
think
no
most of
most.
the time you're actually probably in a hut or a room, or it's not usually outside. It's usually taking place inside an actual structure. Yeah.
And then are you compelled to, again, this isn't, I don't mean to generalize so much, but let's just say you personally, were you compelled to get up and walk around and get away from people? Or
sometimes, like there were certain, in my last trip, there was something happening with some guy and I just had to get away from him. But ayahuasca affects my motor coordination quite strongly. I struggle to walk when I'm on it, so I kind of like stumbled out of the temple. But yeah, I think the ideal is just to sit with it, you know, just sit and face whatever you have to face, because you can't really run away from it, you know.
Oh man!
And you don't want to. You're not. It's not a catalyst to like interact with other people, right? You're not trying to like talk to other people while you're.
No, I
going through
don't.
your
I mean,
thing.
you could, if you're on a mild dose, I guess you could interact, but
It's too powerful.
yeah, man. I mean, it's not like let's all hold hands and sing kumbaya.
Right.
You're going into your own mind to do your own work, you know.
Do work, son.
Yeah, it's
What
work.
what was your buddy's name? Simon? Or Jan?
Jan.
Jan.
Yeah.
I got the N right at the end.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about this connection that you guys had, this telepathic connection that you possibly gained.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's telepathic. I mean, when I was telling you that story, it wasn't telepathic. It was just like we'd see each other, and that would be the first thing.
But it was.
Maybe it was,
because you communicated without words, and you knew exactly what he meant, and he knew exactly what you meant, and I when I think about experiences like that, where you have this connection to this person, that ayahuasca obviously, you know, brought up out of you, and you know we all have this ability. You know, we talked about Napoleon Hill and how he pimped really the title of this book to make people think something different, but in reality, it's how to develop and amplify this sixth sense that we have, which is strange, but I don't know. I find it fascinating. You know, that small example of the picture you painted. I could see it. you guys sitting on opposite sides of the dojo, or whatever it's called. Is it called a dojo?
Yeah, dojo's good.
Dojo's good.
Yeah.
I don't mean to disregard.
No,
I know.
it's good.
Yeah. But yeah, man. I mean, I could see the vibes passing through you guys, man. It's
How
really
how
cool.
long is the afterglow that you described? Because I know that when you do something like a juice fast or something like this, not even on the same fucking ballpark, but you still like talk about it constantly. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I've been juicing for like 20 days and I feel great, and you talk about it for like a week or two after.
Man, I've still got the afterglow.
Yeah?
I mean, it's
9
not
months later
Yeah,
now?
it's not as strong as it was, but I remember the
You were amped when you came back, dude.
Jesus, dude. After the last trip, so we finished the ceremony like after our 4 hours. It was probably like 2:00 in the morning, and everyone was kind of in the communal little eating area in the next hut over, and some people had gone back to bed. And man, I was lying on the ground on my hands and knees, just saying thank you for being alive. Just saying I was just going, thank you so much, thank you so. I was like so thankful to existence that I was alive, bro.
That's great.
It was, yeah. I mean, so that was at its strongest point, obviously, because I was just after the trip. And, you know, now sometimes I find myself smiling, dude. I'll just be walking on the street and I'll be smiling and I'll be like, what? Why am I smiling? And I'll realize, fuck, bro, there's no reason. I'm just smiling because I'm alive. You know, and
That's
that,
awesome.
yeah, and
That's
that,
really cool.
before meditation and to a greater extent ayahuasca, that kind of thing didn't happen to me. I was just like, wow, how can I fucking make more money or win more jiu-jitsu competitions or bang more chicks or whatever it is.
Right,
you know?
right.
And so I guess, again, my body was very clean. So I think the medicine could go really deep. And I think that's why I had this long afterglow.
How great is that?
Yeah.
So cool.
And I think a guy like you, and I mean, you guys seem pretty healthy and with your nutrition and stuff, I think there's no limit to how much you can get out of that medicine.
So is it something that you assume you'll do for the rest of your life? Once a year, reset, that kind of thing?
I've got a feeling this is going to be the last one, this trip into the... I've got a feeling this is going to be, yeah.
Oh man, that's so finite.
Yeah.
I hate hearing things like that. Why do you think that? It's just something you feel deep inside.
A part of me, like, I don't really even need to do ayahuasca again. I'm happy now, you know, but I want to know what my soul looks like. That's the one question, the final question I have, you know. I want to know what beyond this, what I look like. And if it answers that, that'll be good, bro.
What if you don't like the answer?
Yeah, then I
Dude,
guess I'll
stop
have some
putting
more
out
work.
bad energy. Out there,
What?
bro.
Come on, it's a question.
I guess I'll have some more work to do then, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Which is, you know, what you're doing now, and this is... How are we doing on time?
Yeah, we're getting up around 1:40. So
Okay, well, let's quickly talk about what you're doing now. You've started a new podcast, correct?
Yeah, buddy. We just recorded the first episode a few days ago, and we're getting our website ready and our iTunes account. And it's called The Journey, and it's a friend of mine, Paul, who runs another podcast called openmatradio.com, which is a very popular jiu-jitsu podcast. And it's going to be him and I speaking about the human experience.
Awesome.
You know, just like you guys. By the way, amazing that you're doing this. You know, when Brian and I told people go do your own version of London Real, we didn't actually think anyone was going to do it. So it's amazing that you guys.
thank you,
are
man.
doing this.
No, it was a great inspiration.
Thanks to
and,
you, dude. This
No,
is
you
how
know-
we're here.
You know, really quick before we get off the subject, do you have your website up?
Yes. Well, by the time this airs, it'll be up. It's thejourneypodcast.com.
Yet? TheJourneyPodcast.com, right?
And I mean, it's just about putting out positive vibes, just like you guys are doing. I'm sure we'll have one or both of you on the show at one point. And
That'd be great.
yeah.
What are you guys just gonna? You are gonna have guests
Yeah.
then. It's not just gonna be you two talking, because that's okay. I mean,
Yeah, the first one was just us chatting and introducing ourselves and just saying where we're at, but we're gonna have some interesting guests, I think.
that's great, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
So, damn, I think I forgot what I was going to tell you. Journey Podcast.
Right at the end too.
Yeah, no, I wanted you to get out your website before I asked the question. but
Jiu-Jitsu Brotherhood.
It'll come out.
Yeah, for jiu-jitsu guys, if you go to if you want to know more about what I do with my work in jiu-jitsu, it's jiu-jitsubrotherhood.com.
JujitsuBrotherhood.com.
Yeah.
My pen just ran out of ink, but we have it on thing, and during the editing process, I'll go back and definitely put that up. You'll see it pop
cool.
up, right about there.
Boom.
we could find you on Facebook.
Sure.
Are you on Twitter?
I am on Twitter. It's at JJ Brotherhood.
At JJ
So
Brotherhood.
JJ, the word brotherhood, no underscores or spaces. Not really a ninja at Twitter, but I'm learning how to use it. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, guys.
Man,
All
I
right,
wish,
well,
I wish I could get this thought back, man.
You know what'll
It was
happen as
something
soon as
about-
we stop recording?
Oh, yep, I got it.
Boom.
I got it.
Quick, get it in. I don't want to run out of.
So, I listened to the Dorian Yates one. I don't even know this guy. at
Yeah,
this
he
point.
told me the story of how you met.
And we're compatriots in our acting studio. So much respect for everyone who's under that umbrella. We just start talking, and he gives me the spiel. He's like, yeah, I think you'd really appreciate this. And I know who Dorian Yates is. So I was like, yeah, man, definitely. And a couple other things that he had cooking were very inspiring. So long story short, I listened to the podcast. Great job, great interview.
Thanks, buddy.
And I said, dude, why don't we do this? And lo and behold, on the website, the offer was out there. The exact same thing that I had thought of in my mind. Like, why not? Why not solicit this? Hey, you guys are doing London Real. Well, we're in the mecca of filmmaking, where we have access to personalities and celebrities and interesting people. Why don't we try to get them to let us piggyback on them, and there it is, the offer.
Good for you, man.
I took that as a sign. I said, man, I think we definitely have to do this, and here we are.
Good for you.
Well, just to end, man, it's been such an awesome treat to have you here, dude.
It's so good to be here,
Thank
guys.
you so much. And next time, how long are you gonna be in town?
A few more weeks.
Okay,
Yeah,
and then are you be coming back through maybe in a who knows?
Yeah, as I told you in the car, I'm going to Burning Man next weekend, and if I survive that, then I'll come back.
Come back and tell us about it. No, just you're welcome anytime, and thanks for inspiring us
Hey,
and
guys.
everybody else, man.
1,000 blessings on both of you.
Likewise,
Thank you.
man. Right
Continue
back
to
at
live
you.
the dream like Nick. Shit.
Yeah, man. Oh, before we go, why not let them leave us with
Ooh, yeah. We're supposed to ask you the
some-
question that we. So you go ahead and ask him.
So, just the way that you're living your life, the freedom that you allow yourself to pursue these thoughts that are in your mind that are dreams. We love to have people on the show. That is the only prerequisite, is to know that you're living a life that is in pursuit of your happiness, what you envision for yourself, and you're the epitome of that. And if you could impart some advice or knowledge or wisdom on one person, what would you tell them?
I would say get as much of the works of Osho, it's spelled O-S-H-O, as you can, and read as many of them as possible, and start meditating. And again, this is something you have to dedicate yourself to. Start meditating every day. Do it for at least a month. And that's the advice I'd give.
For how long?
Nothing more
Does
than
it
that.
matter?
If you do it properly, you will probably never want to stop. I mean, you'll just become happier and happier and more filled with joy. So I would say read Osho and meditate.
Really?
You can't go wrong with that, man.
Osho has a podcast too. Have you found? I mean,
I
it's
think
just
he's-
all his works.
Yeah.
It's not him talking. It's not him.
I don't think you know that he passed away.
It's not him. It's not him.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of his meditations.
It's cool.
It's not a lot.
That's
but
good, succinct
definitely-
advice, man.
Cool, man.
That's very nice.
Cool.
How long I meant per session. I didn't mean like.
Oh, how long per session? I mean, I find the mind only starts to quiet down after like 20 minutes. So I go, now I'm doing 30 to 40 minutes, and I'll probably get up to an hour soon. But just stick with it. It won't work at first. Start with a few minutes and build it up. But it's not like watching TV or playing on Facebook, or it's something you have to stick with.
Oh, definitely apply discipline. Whenever you catch yourself playing games on your phone or on Facebook too long, you could easily just say, you know what, for the next 30 minutes, I'm going to sit and breathe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Takes discipline.
For sure.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks again, Nick, man.
Thank you, guys.
I wish we could, I mean, I know Thomas has got questions for you. But
they've all sweated off my hands.
Yeah.
I had some good ones, some doozies.
We're definitely limited by technology, man, but we hope to stay connected with you. And if you ever need anything from us,
For sure, guys.
You know how to reach us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. Keep living
Appreciate
the dream.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.